Michael, thanks for coming in.
Walter, thanks for having me again. You're too kind.
Michael, you really stayed focused. You have the ability now to cultivate and manufacture for retail. You received your final licenses from the Cannabis Control Commission. You are on the cusp of being able to do retail in Cambridge and Somerville, and we'll be looking for another location for retail. How did you get here? Now, Michael, you have been in business 4 years, 5 years now?
Oh gosh, we started the business, really got into this space in 2012, just before the ballot initiative, so almost 6 years now.
6 years. It was reported in the Globe a few weeks ago that the company's being sold.
It was reported in the Globe, that is correct.
And that, how does a company get into a position to be reported in the Globe as selling?
I can say this, I think that, there has been and will continue to be interest from larger organizations to either acquire or partner with, merge or work with in other ways, a variety of different, what we call plant-touching cannabis organizations, not just in Massachusetts, but in other states. Our friend to the north, Canada, has a nationally legalized marijuana program, and what that's done is it's created an opening for the national capital markets in Canada to engage in plant-touching cannabis activities, even in the United States. And so I think that what we've seen in the past several months in terms of this type of activity, we're going to see more and more and more of. And if there are companies out there, cannabis licensees that have been through this process and are interested in transferring ownership of their organizations, the advice that I would give would be to run a tight ship, run a very strong, tight business. And especially some of the areas that you don't often think about as a cannabis entrepreneur that you absolutely have to have locked down in order to be an acquisition target. Accounting. Your accounting department has to be solid as a rock. If you can't survive 1, 2, 3 year audits to in international financial standards or GAAP standards, you're not going to get acquired. So I would think that, or I would say that the very first thing an entrepreneur should focus on is the back office, G&A, accounting, making sure that your books are straight, making sure that your compliance team is solid as a rock and you can demonstrate that you've been compliant, no deficiency statements, and God forbid if you have had any deficiency statements, patch them up, make sure that you've responded to them timely and that you fix the problems the way the regulator wants to see.
It was very interesting that with Milford's vote against recreational marijuana, but because you were such a good community member, that they made an exception to your business to allow you to grow in the town. I think, and that gives a great point of view as to how people perceive Sira Naturals, is that you're a great community.
Yeah, I spoke about that at length the last time I was here. Folks, if they're interested in hearing the story, can look up that last episode. I agree, and I think, as we spoke about before the show today, Cambridge and Somerville are going through their zoning process, and one of the things that's been a key to our success is the recognition that cannabis companies, for better or for worse, are not going to survive in Massachusetts unless you partner with your local municipality. You cannot go into your municipality and try to throw your weight around or challenge what they want to do. You have to work with folks, and if you're willing to, I think we have found that local community leaders have been more than amenable in most cases to work with us. We did not do a whole lot of financial projection tweaking. We really didn't want to placate to the desire of an investor to show big downstream revenues if we didn't believe they were there. We felt the better way to approach investors was to say, listen, we're building blocks here. We're putting together a solid business. We're putting together a team of professionals that are going to deliver over time. We don't know, because no one knew at the time what the marketplace was going to be. So it just seemed wildly speculative for me just to bump up numbers or use multipliers just because we thought that investors wanted to hear it. Instead, we just went in and we said what we really thought, and we didn't compromise on that. And I think if you say what you really think, and they come back and say, well, why not higher, or why not this, or why not a 10 multiple, why not a 12 multiple, and you can give them reasons why you don't want to put a 12 multiple on. Look, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Much rather underpromise by a hair and give them a little bump.
And I find that to be a big issue, is that people selling pie in the sky, and the numbers just don't play out.
It happens all the time, in every business, but in cannabis in particular.
Well, thank you for coming in this morning, Michael. People want to get in touch with you and find out more about Sira Naturals and what you do. What's the best way for them to reach out?
Certainly check us out at siranaturals.org, SIRA, naturals.org. You can sign up for our newsletter and get in touch with me there.
Michael, why don't you tell the people where your locations are?
So we have 3 beautiful locations, one in Somerville, right in the heart of Davis Square at 240 Elm Street. We're also located on Massachusetts Avenue, 1001 Mass Ave in Cambridge. That's right between Harvard and Central Square. And then we're right off Route 128 at Highland Avenue in Needham. That's 29 Franklin Street, Needham, right across the street from You Do It
I
Electronics.
gotta tell you, and I find that 1001 Mass Ave, when you go rec, there'll be people showing up there that used to go in there and play pinball.
That's right, that's right. There used to be a movie theater.
They might still think they're playing pinball in there.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming in. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Alex Cooper along with Walter Sullivan, and we'll be right back after these messages.